The Broken Game. The sun was setting behind the alien colony, painting the sky in strange violet and silver shades. On the wide playground near the central dome, children were laughing and running as they played their favorite game. The ball they used was no ordinary ball. It floated slightly above the ground, responding to gravity pulses in the field. Every time someone kicked it, the ball soared in odd directions, twisting and bouncing with strange energy. The alien children shouted with excitement, their voices full of joy as they tried to catch it. But away from the noise, near the edge of the field, one girl stood alone. Her large dark eyes followed the ball with longing. Her small hands clutched the edge of her cloak tightly. She wanted to join, but she did not move forward. Her leg, thin and weak, could not carry her like the others. Since birth, she had been called broken. She heard the whispers every day. She cannot run. She cannot play. She will always be less. The girl lowered her head, trying to hide the tears forming in her eyes. She wanted to believe she was strong, but when she saw the other children running freely, her heart sank deeper. Not far from the field, a human was working with his tools. He was a mechanic, one of the few humans allowed to stay in the colony after the wars had ended. His clothes were stained with oil and dust. His hands were rough from years of fixing engines, broken ships, and power lines. Yet despite his rough look, his eyes were gentle and sharp, always searching, always noticing. He was repairing a machine near the field when he noticed her. The children's laughter filled the air, but he heard something different, the silence of the girl who did not laugh. He looked closer and saw the pain in her eyes, the way she tried to smile but failed. Something inside him stirred. He wiped his hands and walked closer. First, the girl stiffened, nervous to be approached by a human. Many aliens still did not trust humans fully, but the mechanic's voice was calm, carrying no judgment. "Why don't you play?" he asked softly. The girl looked away, ashamed. For a long moment she did not answer. Then her voice came out, quiet, almost broken. "Sorry, sir. I can't." The words struck him harder than any weapon. He had seen soldiers say, "I can't," when the battle was lost. He had seen men cry those words when hope was gone. And now he was hearing the same defeat in the voice of a child. The alien elders nearby noticed the human speaking to her. They shook their heads. One of them muttered to another, "The human wastes his time. She is useless." Another said, "She will never be part of the game. Better she stays in the shadows." But the mechanic did not turn away. Instead, he knelt so that his eyes met hers. "Can't?" he repeated gently. "Or won't?" She blinked, confused. I can't run. My leg, it is weak. I will fall. Everyone will laugh." The mechanic stayed silent for a moment, studying her carefully. Then, with a small smile, he said, "Falling is not the end. Falling is how we learn to rise." The girl stared at him, unsure if she should believe such strange words. No one had ever told her she could try. No one had ever spoken as if her weakness did not matter. The game continued on the field. The ball soared into the sky, children shouting with wild joy. But the mechanic saw something else. He did not see a child who was weak. He saw a child waiting to be given a chance. That night, as the stars filled the alien sky, the girl sat quietly in her small room. She replayed the words of the human again and again. "Falling is how we learn to rise." She did not fully understand. Yet for the first time in her life, the thought touched her heart. Maybe she was not completely broken. Meanwhile, the mechanic worked late into the night. In his workshop, sparks lit the darkness as he hammered, shaped, and built something unknown. His hands moved quickly, guided by determination. He remembered her voice. He remembered the sadness in her eyes, and he whispered to himself as he tightened the last bolt, "She will play. She must play." The sound of tools filled the silence, and with every strike of metal his plan grew stronger. The alien colony slept peacefully, unaware of what the human was preparing. But in the shadows, hope was being built, piece by piece, bolt by bolt. And so the broken game was not truly broken. It was only waiting, waiting for the moment when a human heart and human hands would turn defeat into possibility. The human's plan. The next morning, the colony woke to the same sounds as always: machines humming, vendors calling, children laughing on the field. But one place was different. Inside a small workshop at the edge of the colony, the human mechanic was already awake, long before the first light touched the towers. His hands were busy, his mind sharper than ever. On his workbench lay strange pieces, metal rods, glowing circuits, scraps from broken ships, and even parts of old alien toys. He was not repairing today. He was creating. The night before, the words of the alien girl had stayed with him. "Sorry, sir, I can't." He had heard defeat in her voice, but in her eyes he had seen something more, an ember waiting for a spark. He could not let it die. He tightened a bolt, sparks flashing against his goggles. Sweat rolled down his brow, but he did not stop. Every strike of his hammer carried a promise that no child, human or alien, should believe they were broken forever. Meanwhile, the girl sat quietly in the corner of her small home. She watched through the window as the other children played again. Their voices filled the air, their movements fast and free. Her chest ached. She remembered the human's words. "Falling is how we learn to rise." No one had ever spoken like that before. Her own people only reminded her of her weakness, but the human had looked at her as if she was more than her broken leg. For the first time, she wondered, could he be right? Back in the workshop, the mechanic pushed aside broken tools and began fitting the last piece into his creation. The design was strange, even dangerous. It was not a simple crutch or walking aid. It was something different, something bold. It was a support system, half machine and half armor. Wires pulsed with borrowed alien energy cells. The frame curved smoothly, designed to fit her leg. It was strong, light, and flexible. But it was more than just a tool. It was freedom. Freedom hidden inside steel and circuits. He stood back, staring at it. It was not perfect. It might fail. But he whispered to himself, "Better she fails trying than never trying at all." Word began to spread in the colony. The aliens had sharp eyes. They noticed the human buying extra parts, working through the night, refusing to rest. Rumors whispered among them. What is he building? Another human weapon? No, something for the broken girl. Impossible. He cannot change what nature decided. The elders frowned. To them, weakness was shame. A child who could not play was a burden, and now a human dared to challenge this belief. One elder muttered bitterly, "Humans never learn. They think they can fix everything with machines. They do not understand our ways." But still, the mechanic worked. At dusk, he carried the finished device under his arm, hidden beneath cloth. He walked toward the field, where the girl sat again, watching but never playing. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "You came back?" she whispered. He nodded, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "I told you, you are not broken, and I have something to prove it." He unwrapped the cloth, revealing the strange device. The metal glowed faintly, alien energy humming through the circuits. The girl gasped, "What is that?" The human's eyes burned with quiet fire. "A chance." Her hands trembled. I don't understand." "You will," he said firmly, "but only if you trust me." The next day, the field was louder than ever. The children were excited for the game, their voices carrying across the colony. But this time, the human stood at the edge of the field with the girl. All eyes turned to them. The crowd began to murmur. "Look, the broken one is here. She dares to step forward, and with a human by her side? Shameful." The elders shook their heads, already prepared to mock the failure they expected to see. The mechanic knelt beside her, strapping the device onto her leg. The metal clicked into place, the circuits humming. The girl's heart pounded. She felt the weight of every stare, every cruel whisper. "I can't," she whispered again, fear choking her. But the human looked into her eyes. his voice steady and strong. "You already said that once, and I refuse to believe you. Say it again, and I will still refuse, because you can. This is not about them. This is about you." Tears welled in her eyes. For the first time, someone was fighting for her, not against her. She stood, shaky at first. The device pulsed, adjusting to her movements. The crowd gasped as she did not fall. She took a step, then another, each one steadier than before. The alien children fell silent. The ball floated in the air, forgotten. The human whispered, "Tomorrow you will play, and tomorrow they will see." That night, the colony could not stop talking. Some called the human reckless. Others called him foolish. But a few began to wonder, what if he succeeds? The girl lay in bed, staring at the stars through her window. For the first time in her life, her dreams were not of sitting alone. Her dreams were of running, of playing, of proving everyone wrong. And in the workshop, the human sharpened his tools once more, whispering into the silence, "This is only the beginning." First attempt. The next morning, the colony gathered once again around the wide playground. The strange ball game was about to begin, and the air buzzed with excitement. The children laughed, the crowd cheered, and the ball floated lightly in the center field, glowing with its strange gravity energy. But today, something was different. At the edge of the field stood the human mechanic with the alien girl by his side. She was trembling, her hands clutching the cloak tightly around her shoulders. Strapped to her weak leg was the strange device the human had built, metal and light fused together, glowing faintly as if alive. The crowd noticed them instantly. Whispers turned to laughter, and laughter turned to cruel words. "Look, the broken one has returned. She dares to step into the field? And with a human's toy tied to her leg? Pitiful." The elders shook their heads, disgust in their eyes. To them, this was a waste of time, a human's foolish attempt to fight nature. But the human ignored them. He crouched beside the girl, his voice calm but strong. "Do not listen to them. Today is not about them. Today is about you." Her voice shook. "What if I fall?" He smiled. "Then you stand again. Because every time you stand, you break the chains they put on you." The referee called for the game to begin. The alien children gathered, ready to show their skills. The ball lifted into the air, humming softly. The human nodded to the girl. "Go!" Her legs felt heavy, her chest tight. Every step she took toward the field felt like walking into fire. The crowd's eyes burned into her. Some mocked, some pitied, none believed. She reached the field. The ball spun past her, almost daring her to try. Her hand trembled as she reached out. For the first time in her life, she stepped forward to play. The first attempt came quickly. The ball drifted near her. The children sneered, expecting her to fail. She lifted her foot with the help of the device and kicked. The ball wobbled and dropped only a few feet away. The crowd erupted in laughter. The children shouted cruel words. "See? Broken remains broken. The human's toy is useless." Her face burned with shame. Tears filled her eyes. She turned to run from the field. But the human stepped in front of her, his voice cutting through the noise. "No, not yet." "I failed," she cried. He shook his head. "You tried. That is not failure. Failure is never trying at all. Look at me." She lifted her tear-filled eyes. "I believe in you," he said. "One more time." The second attempt came. The ball floated back toward her, glowing brighter under the alien sun. Her heart pounded, her knees shook, but this time she remembered his words. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and whispered to herself, "Not broken." The ball reached her. She swung her leg again. This time the device hummed with power, stabilizing her movement. The ball flew, rising higher than it ever had when struck by the other children. It soared into the air, twisting with impossible speed, shining as it streaked across the field. The crowd gasped. The laughter stopped. Silence fell over the playground. The ball landed far, so far that no one could believe it had come from her. The girl froze, staring at her leg, then at her hands. I did that? The human smiled, pride glowing in his eyes. No, we did that. You and me. The children stared at her, their mouths open. For the first time they saw not a broken girl, but a player who had done the impossible. The elders shifted uncomfortably. One of them muttered, "This is unnatural, a human trick." But another whispered, almost against his will, "Or maybe this is strength." The game continued. The ball returned again and again, and with each attempt the girl grew stronger. Her kicks became sharper, her balance steadier. The device responded like it was part of her. The children who mocked her now struggled to keep up. Every strike silenced another whisper of doubt. Every movement turned pity into awe. The human watched, his heart steady but fierce. He had seen battles, victories, and losses, but this moment of a child discovering her strength was greater than all of them. Finally, the ball came one last time. The children blocked her path, trying to stop her. But she lifted her head, her eyes shining with determination. She kicked with all her strength. The ball shot into the air, twisting and turning, and then slammed directly into the goal marker with a blast of light. The crowd gasped, then silence, then cheers, loud, thunderous cheers. Children screamed her name, aliens clapped their hands, even some elders stood in disbelief. The girl fell to her knees, breathless, tears streaming down her cheeks. But this time, they were not tears of shame. They were tears of triumph. She looked up at the human. "I can play." He placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice steady and proud. "I told you, you were never broken. You were only waiting to rise." That night the colony buzzed with voices. Some still doubted, but many spoke with wonder. The girl who had once been cast aside was now the center of hope, and behind it all stood a human who refused to give up. But in the shadows, not everyone was happy. Among the elders, some whispered of danger. If humans can change our weakest, what else can they change? What else will they dare to touch? The mechanic did not care. He had seen enough. For him, this was only the beginning. And for the girl, the game was no longer broken. It had only just begun. The moment of courage. The sun rose slowly over the alien colony, but this time the air felt heavier. Word had spread through every street and market. The broken girl had played, and she had won. Children whispered her name with excitement. Parents argued in disbelief, and elders gathered in private chambers, their voices sharp with anger. "This is dangerous," one elder hissed. "A human should not change our ways." "Her success will give others false hope," another muttered. But a third, older voice spoke softly. "Or perhaps it shows us something we have forgotten." The girl, meanwhile, walked the streets with the human beside her. For the first time she did not hide under her cloak. The device strapped to her leg gleamed faintly in the morning light. Everywhere she went, eyes followed. Some smiled with pride, some frowned with suspicion, and some looked at her with pure disbelief. She had been invisible all her life, a shadow at the edge of the crowd. Now she was a storm. But inside, fear still gripped her heart. She turned to the human and whispered, "They are all watching me. What if I fail again?" The human's gaze was steady, his voice calm but firm. "Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is stepping forward despite it." His words wrapped around her like a shield, but her heart still pounded. She had proven herself once, but could she do it again in front of everyone? That afternoon, the council elders called a gathering in the great hall. Thousands filled the seats, their voices echoing against the high metal walls. At the center, the human and the girl were summoned. The eldest counselor rose, his eyes sharp as knives. "Human, you dare to alter what nature decided. You use your machines to twist weakness into false strength." The crowd murmured. Some agreed, some protested, but all waited for his answer. The human stepped forward. His voice was not loud, yet it carried through the hall like thunder. "You call it weakness. I call it potential. She was not broken, she was ignored. If my machine gave her a chance, then perhaps the real weakness lies not in her, but in those who refuse to believe in her. Gasps filled the hall. The girl looked at him with wide eyes. No one had ever spoken for her like this before. The counselor scowled. Then let us see if your words hold truth. The game will be played again, before all, and the girl will take part. If she fails, the blame will rest on you. The human nodded without hesitation. So be it. The girl trembled. She wanted to speak, to protest, but the human's hand rested gently on her shoulder. Trust yourself. This is your moment. The next day, the largest crowd the colony had ever seen gathered around the field. From balconies, windows, and towers they watched. The air buzzed with tension. The children entered the field, nervous but curious, and then the girl stepped forward. Her cloak fell back, revealing the glowing device on her leg. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some jeering, all watching. The ball floated high in the air, pulsing with strange energy. The game began. The girl's heart raced. The first pass came toward her. Every eye locked on her, every breath in the crowd held still. She swung her leg, steady, strong. The ball shot across the field, faster than the others could follow. Cheers broke out, drowning the jeers. But the game grew harder. The children played fiercely, determined to prove her victory was a trick. They blocked her, shoved her, tried to make her stumble. The council elders leaned forward, waiting for failure. The girl fell once, dust clinging to her face. The crowd gasped. The children laughed cruelly. For a moment her heart cracked. The old words returned. You are broken. You cannot play. But then she heard another voice, the human's voice, calm, strong, unshaken. Falling is how we learn to rise. She pushed herself up, pain in her leg, determination in her eyes. The crowd roared as she stood tall again. The final play came. The ball soared high, higher than ever before. Two children rushed to block her. If she missed now, all hope would be lost. The girl ran forward, her leg pulsing with energy. The crowd leaned in. The elders held their breath. The human clenched his fists, his eyes never leaving her. She leapt higher than anyone believed possible and struck the ball with perfect force. The ball twisted through the air like lightning, glowing brighter and brighter until it slammed into the goal with an explosion of light. The crowd erupted. Shouts shook the ground. Children screamed her name. Even some elders stood in awe, their eyes wide. The girl dropped to her knees, breathless. Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. She had not only played, she had won. The human rushed forward, lifting her to her feet. The crowd's cheers thundered around them, but his words were quiet, spoken only for her. This is who you are, not broken, not weak, but stronger than they ever dreamed. That night the colony could not sleep. Fires burned, voices sang, and the story spread faster than the stars could shine. The broken girl had risen, and a human's hand had lifted her higher. But in the shadows of the council chamber, the elders spoke darkly. If humans can give strength to our weakest, then what power will they wield tomorrow? What will they change next? The game had been won, but a greater battle was only beginning. Humanity's gift, the colony was alive with noise long into the night. Children sang the girl's name, fires burned in celebration, and even the cold streets seemed warmer. For the first time in her life, the alien girl walked through the crowds without shame. Everywhere she went, people smiled, whispered, and pointed, not as they once had in cruelty, but in awe. Yet while the colony rejoiced, the council elders gathered in silence. Their chamber was dim, their voices sharp and restless. She has become a symbol, one elder growled. Not of our strength, but of human defiance, another spat. If a human can lift one broken child, what happens when they lift all of us? They will reshape our people, our ways, our destiny. But the eldest elder spoke slowly, his voice carrying both fear and wonder. Or perhaps this is what destiny intended. The council could not agree. Suspicion and unease filled the room like smoke. The next morning the girl was summoned. She entered the council hall, fell with the human mechanic beside her. Her steps were steady, her device glowing softly. For once, she did not bow her head. She faced them directly, her eyes bright. The eldest elder rose. "Child, you have done what none believed possible. You played, you triumphed, you inspired. But tell us, was it you, or was it the human's machine?" The hall grew quiet. The question hung heavy, a blade waiting to fall. The girl's voice shook at first, but then grew strong. "It was both. The machine gave me a chance. But the courage was mine. He believed in me when no one else did. That belief gave me strength. The machine only carried it forward." Her words rippled through the crowd. Murmurs rose. Many nodded. Even a few elders lowered their eyes, troubled. The human stepped forward then, his voice calm but filled with power. "You see her leg as weakness. I see it as a challenge. Humans do not accept what is broken. We repair, we build, we rise. This is not a machine. This is hope. And hope is the greatest gift my people can give." The elders tried to argue, but the people outside had already chosen. The colony cheered the girl's name louder than ever before. Children copied her movements, pretending to wear a glowing device, laughing with joy. Parents whispered that perhaps their own weak or lost children could be lifted too. The girl stood taller than she ever had. For years she had been hidden, silenced, dismissed. Now she was a voice that could not be ignored. But victory did not come without danger. That evening shadows moved through the colony. Not everyone celebrated. A small group of radicals, angry at change, gathered in secret. "Humans do not give gifts," one snarled. "They give chains." "She will lead others astray," another hissed. "Better to end this now." They planned to strike at the next game, to prove the girl and the human were frauds. The day arrived. The field was more crowded than ever before. The entire colony had come to see her play once again, this time not as an outsider but as a champion. The ball glowed, brighter, the air electric with anticipation. The game began. The girl moved with grace, every strike stronger than the last. The children cheered for her, no longer mocking. She laughed for the first time, her voice pure and free. But then in the midst of the game, one of the radicals hurled a stone from the edge of the crowd. It struck her device with a loud crack. Sparks flew. The girl stumbled, nearly falling. Gasps filled the air. The human was at her side instantly, shielding her with his body. The crowd roared in anger, seizing the attacker. The elders rose in shock. The girl looked at her leg. The device flickered, damaged. Fear surged inside her. What if it was gone? What if she was broken again? The human knelt beside her, his voice steady despite the chaos. "The device may break, but what it gave you is already inside you. You don't need this to stand anymore." Her eyes widened. Could it be true? Could she still play without it? The ball drifted near, glowing softly. The crowd held its breath. The girl took a step. Her leg trembled, weak as before. Another step. Pain surged, but her spirit burned brighter. She kicked, without the device. The ball soared into the air, twisting with perfect grace, slamming into the goal with thunderous force. The crowd erupted, louder than ever. Cheers shook the ground. Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled through them. She had done it. Not the machine, not the device. Her. The human lifted her high as the colony roared. The elders stood in silence, their faces unreadable. But the people had already decided. The broken girl was no longer broken. She was a symbol of courage, of hope, of change. And beside her stood a human whose refusal to give up had given them all a new vision of strength. That night, as the stars filled the sky, the girl whispered to him, "You gave me more than a machine. You gave me myself." He smiled softly. "No, you gave yourself. I only reminded you to look within." From that day forward, the story spread beyond the colony, across the stars. The tale of the broken alien child and the human mechanic who refused to give up became legend. and wherever it was told, it carried one truth. Humans did not see weakness. Humans saw possibility, and that was their greatest gift to the galaxy.